I know it's really windy out here, so the sound may not be great, but I want to show you the great things growing on here at the Sustainable Homestead Institute, where they're expanding the market garden. So this is the upper half of the market garden. They're expanding the market garden. They're putting in more beds. Here's what's left over of some wildflowers. And by the way, it is November. It's extremely cold out here, but look at that. Cover crops are already starting to come in. They're also expanding other beds over here as well. They're starting to get other things in place. But look at that cover crop. There'll be a link in the description below to the Sustainable Homestead Institute where you can see more about what they're doing. But the main reason I want to show you what they got growing on is because I've been involved in their mastermind program that goes on every Wednesday night. And I've been listening carefully because not only are they showing that they're the real deal, by the way, this is bok choy here. Look at that bok choy grow. That's ready to harvest right there. But they're not only showing what can be done, but they are actually doing it here in Henry County, Virginia. Look at that. That's getting ready to go. It looks like they just tilled up a little bit to try to kill some of that grass. And then they got cover crops coming in a couple of the areas. Now, some of these seeds are residual. Here's a little demonstration here about catching water. Some water comes in down the hill and they're kind of impounding the water a little bit, which gives them a micro garden here, right here. And it still gives them access down the side here to get into the other garden area. But look at these earthworks. Now, again, I've done the video. Why do we have the earthworks? Well, the earthworks gives us more growing space and more accessibility while slowing and spreading water. You can see how they have all this growth out. Now, we're still pulling rocks out. There's a lot of rocks, but you see these cover crops, they're starting to come in. They're coming in pretty strong. And the cover crops are going to fill this whole space up again to prevent erosion. So we have it level to prevent erosion, but we also have it in cover crop as quickly as possible. Now, they've been out here working. Let me put this rock in the rock pile because there's a lot of rocks coming out. And we're going to walk down here a little bit further. Let me tell you a little bit about the mastermind program and why it's so valuable to me. Now, again, this is just my feedback. I'm starting a small farm. As you guys know, I'm going to raise goats. I'm going to raise probably some ducks. I'm still laying out what I'm going to raise. And the techniques I've been practicing here at the Sustainable Homestead Institute. You can see we're down on another terrace here. And can you see how these terraces give you so much more growing space on what really was just an old farm hill? This is 2 acres fenced in, and it just was an old hill, and it was nasty, and it didn't have a lot of stuff growing on. And he's basically transformed it, Scott Vernon, he's transformed it into a massive market garden. Now, are we getting top yields and stuff like that? Not necessarily, because that's not what we're focusing on. Remember, this is where the wheat happened last time. We had all that wheat come out of here. Here's where there was corn and squash and tomatoes coming in. And look at all that space now. Now it's idle. We got that biomass coming along. But look at this. We could go from biomass like this into chickens like this. So this area, he's impounding these chickens in. Okay, so they can scratch up all this dirt, and we got to get, again, I've talked about it so many times, we've got to get that seed bank out of here. There's a lot of grass in this. There's a lot of weeds. And so the chickens are actually doing all the work while producing eggs to get all of this grass out of here. Now, he's going to move these chickens around between the paddocks. And of course, we'll keep grass on the hill to keep it easy to get access to, because we have a lot of visitors that come over here. And so in the homesteading program, not only did I get to work out here, but I'm actually being mentored on raising goats. So elsewhere on the property, there's goats. But the experience out here, you've seen me doing videos of tilling. You've seen me doing videos of cutting, mulching grass out and stuff. Now, again, I said tillage. And if this is a regenerative farm, why is there tillage? Well, there is shallow tillage, or the appropriate tillage for different spaces. Like this is probably the youngest terrace out here. And we didn't just go in and start digging terraces. We designed and structured and organized. And this has grown corn on it before and grains, but look what happens here. You get down the hill, you notice it's a hill, there's a little hump in it. And then we get to what we have here is a level. We're at the bottom of the terrace. And so what we are able to do in this particular one is slow and spread water that comes down the hill while getting the area into an intermediary space. And then we can run chickens on it to get the seed bank out. We still want the seeds on the hill here, by the way. We want these grasses on the hill. These are called vegetative strips. And these vegetative strips create biomass. And that biomass is used to conserve different areas and spaces. And you can see what I'm just walking in right now actually is a swale that slows and spreads water. And so we have big open areas. So folks, if they were camping down here, for example, or they were out here on a class, we can talk about the different things. But ultimately, the mastermind program isn't just people getting on the phone and talking. This isn't just listening to someone lecture at us. Every meeting is cultivated based on what we need to know for that season and what kind of ideas and tips get us started. Because right now, more than ever before, folks are concerned about food security, and they're concerned about the possible ecological collapse in some areas, or at least the supply chain disruption. And this is a solution. So you'll see on the vegetative strip, there's wildflowers in here. There's just whatever grows. This is what would grow in this field whether or not somebody was out here. But by knocking the materials down and by maintaining this slope, what ends up happening is we end up with small bird habitat, beneficial insect habitat. And so that when we come in here and clear these areas out to prep for next crops, we're not disturbing the pollinators, the beneficial insects. Now, I've wrote about that in programs for the urban space, but how do you do this in the rural space? How do we do this at scale? This is an example. Look at this. Now, I know it's November. It doesn't look like much. It's cold as crap out here. I should have worn my jacket coming down here, but it's a practical example of what's growing on and how to do this in your homestead. And that's what they talk about in the Homesteading Mastermind program. There'll be a link in the description below. You'll also find information about it at the Sustainable Homestead Institute. Now, what are we looking at right here? So inside of each paddock, very often waste material, so rabbit manures, soiled hay that can't be used for animals or bedding, it'll get dumped in the middle of some of these beds. Now, it's dumped a little bit for composting, but also it's just easier to dump it in a pile and then bring a wheelbarrow out here and spread it. But it'll get spread on these different fields to compost in place in order to produce a higher, richer, nutrient-dense soil. Now, when the chickens come out here and they eat up all this and scratch up all this, that's not something we're going to do all the time, because the chickens themselves are going to get the seeds. We want certain seeds in here. We want clovers and cover crop seeds and, a little bit of hairy vetch. But properly managed the way Scott and his team manages things, because this is an operating farm, what's going to happen is a lot of this junk, these little nightshades and stuff, they're going to get scratched up, processed by the chickens, pooped on the ground. A lot of this biomass will get scratched up and it'll be able to more easily compost. You can see over here, we had some, this was basically slashed out. They had some blackberries in here. The ground's a little acidic, but there's also bulbed plants. So what we're looking at here is an operating farm. And so the Homestead Mastermind actually has someone who's been doing this for 10, 11, 12 years. You have qualified individuals on the call. You have people who have done things before, like I'm on the calls, Scott's on the call. Scott's leading the call, by the way, Scott Vernon of the Sustainable Homestead Institute. But you have people who are doing this real time to answer your questions, to give you tips and tricks. If you're a little shy, you don't have to talk. There's a lot of folks that get on the call and they don't talk. There's a lot of folks that get on, they submit questions in advance. But again, there's a little bit of everything going on here to show you exactly how it's done. And so you're in good hands investing in your education to learn how to get your homestead started in this lifetime. Stop making homesteading a dream, make it a reality in this lifetime by getting the help that you need and you're going to get it at the Sustainable Homesteading Mastermind with Scott Vernon. There's a link in the description below. I'm involved in some of the back end stuff. You guys have seen me do videos on this garden. I've seen it evolve, so I'm confident that what they're doing works. If you're not confident, just give it a try. Just give it a try and see for yourself. Maybe you think I'm using CGI or artificial intelligence to do these videos, standing out here in the cold, looking at cover crops coming up. But it's exciting to see this in real life, and you can see it on your property, in your own backyard with this homestead. Now, if you have any questions about the program or homesteading in general, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Just simply go down in the comments below, write up your comments. I'd be happy to hear from you. I'll be happy to answer the questions however I can. And now's the time. Don't wait till a full economic collapse. Don't wait till supply chain disruptions make it so that you can't find food. Don't wait for the answers, and then definitely don't do a trial and error, because it takes 100 times longer to trial and error. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Ask your questions at www.prosperityhomestead.org. I'm going to go get a jacket on. I'll see you in the next one.